Today's podcast is sponsored by Farmhouse Teas.
Welcome to the Ample Flame Podcast. I'm Ben. This is my wife, Meg.
That's me.
And we're going to sit down today. This is episode 1, and we're kind of doing an introduction episode.
Yeah.
So, I hope it goes well. I hope we can, kind of introduce ourselves and get everybody up to speed on who we are, what we are, and why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to kick it off real hard and go way back? In 1985, you were born.
That's pretty far back.
That's pretty far back.
I don't remember any of 1985 because that was the year I was born in.
Yes.
And only for 3 days.
But, that's right.
I was only
in 1985.
In 1985 for 3 days.
Yes.
I was born in 85.
Barely.
And there's a lot of people, I meet and it's like, when were you born? I was born in 86. I was like, I was born in 85. But for 3 days.
But for 3 days.
And they were born in January. So,
right.
We're the same age, that kind of
Basically,
stuff.
yeah.
What's weird is for a long time, I've been the baby in every people group I've been in, be it work or church or whatever. I've always been the youngster. And now I'm starting to be the old fogey.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird.
It's a weird place to be.
It's really weird.
Oh, well. We're just going to ride it, see how it goes.
It.
Okay, so if we're not going back that far.
Not going back that far. All right. So, who we are. I'll tell a little bit about myself, and then you can tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get to where we,
come together.
Let me hit the microphone. We'll get to where we got together. So, my early days, I was one of those weird kids that was homeschooled. Homeschooled in the 90s. My parents risked life and limb to homeschool me and my brothers and sisters. We were a large Christian family. Yeah, homeschooling in the 90s was rough, yo.
It was.
That was back when, it was California, no less. I grew up in California, Southern California. Woohoo!
Right, represent.
It was different world back then.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot recently since we've been out of California for almost 8 years, I think. And we talk a lot about when we went back, the place that we grew up in is no longer
Yeah,
there.
Definitely not.
It's changed a bunch. Okay, so grew up homeschooled, grew up in a Christian family. It was awesome. It really was pretty cool. I was kind of the difficult child. I was the second oldest and, the first boy. And my existence was just to push the envelope and push my parents' buttons. I did a pretty good job at that.
I would say you did, yes.
And I guess because of that, maybe, I'm a very strong-willed, pig-headed person, and it has served me well.
I'm not going to comment on that. You go right ahead. Keep going.
She can vouch.
I can.
She knows I'm not lying here.
Nodding my head,
Not
yes.
blowing smoke. I am very pig-headed. Grew up, did all sorts of things. My parents always had a garden. There were 6 of us, so, pretty big family. There was always a garden. We had chickens. I think when I was 12, I did a cow in 4-H. I did a steer, that kind of stuff. It was a cool childhood.
Yeah.
I did archery, all sorts of stuff. I think I started playing guitar when I was 16, something like that. It was cool. All of the stuff that I heard my entire life about, never fitting in because I was homeschooled, it was garbage. Part of it was true. I still don't fit in.
Right.
Because of my later choices to get married young and have children young and all of that. Those were my own choices.
Yes.
You're
not unhappy with your life,
I'm
right?
not unhappy with
so
my
I guess
life,
it doesn't matter that you fit in or don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
I found my own way.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to jump into my side?
Yeah, why don't you jump in on your side, the early life portion.
Okay. So we don't have to go way back, all the way till...
Back to 87?
87, yo.
Youngster.
Yeah, that's right. I'm also in the very beginning of 87. So you and I are really only about a year apart. So I grew up pretty similar, homeschooled as well. Smaller family, so there's only 3 of us. And my parents split when I was a mid-teenager. So a little bit of different dynamic, but also homeschooled Christian kid. We lived multi-generationally in my family. So for a while, it was my great-great-grandma, my grandparents, my parents, and then us kids. So that was kind of a cool dynamic growing up, was having all 4 generations in one house.
That's a full house.
It was a full house. It was a large house. Well, it didn't start out as a large house. So my grandparents had bought kind of like a bungalow style when when they moved into town. So my mom was a teenager. And then they just lived in that my whole life. And so when we got to the point where we were living with them, some additions had to happen, and more additions had to happen, and more additions had to happen. So basically what happened was this little, I think it was like a 3-bedroom house, turned into a really, really large house. But what was cool about that is my grandpa was the one who did it, and I got to help him. So I had a lot of experience growing up with construction and building a house, and just hanging out with my grandpa. And then my dad was a cabinet maker, so I hung out with him a lot, making stuff. So I love projects and making things, doing things. Also kind of like way different, not normal compared to my peers and stuff. We also had a small garden as well, but not probably to the extent you did. We had a little garden in the backyard.
I don't know, your grandma was always gardening. She always had a good-sized garden.
It just wasn't like acreage. So we were still on a normal city lot, but Poppy would always put in like more and more garden beds for her. So the backyard was always changing. Eventually we had a pool, but lots of canning went on and food preservation and things like that. And then I was always outdoors. I wanted to rollerblade and bike, and I was really a tomboy. I was a major tomboy growing up.
Is that even a politically correct term anymore? Can you call yourself a tomboy?
I don't know.
I don't care.
I don't really care either.
If anybody's listening from our generation, you know what it means.
Yeah, you know what it means. So I was always biking and skating and playing outdoors and all that kind of things. I think our childhoods, being what we just explained, really kind of led us to where we are at this point, but we got some story to get into before that.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so basically from there, like we said, we both grew up in Christian households, did not know each other at all while we were being homeschooled and brought up and stuff like that until we were in high school.
Junior high.
Yeah. My mom has always been involved in a Bible study, and this Bible study had a kids program, and so she put all of us kids in this kids program. And so I think it was Monday nights. Monday nights we'd go to this Bible study. She'd go off to, her Bible study class, and all of us, my brothers and sisters, we'd all, go our separate ways into our respected age groups. I was 15 when we joined. I think you were a little bit younger when you had joined.
Yes, because my mom was actually one of the class leaders, the children's class leader. So
you'd been in it a little bit before I had.
12 or 13,
Yeah,
I think.
A couple years. Well, anyways, I'm nervous teenager, awkward teenager. I walk in, there's a classroom with all these
girls.
It was just like, oh. Did this a couple years, and it was my senior year. We were still doing it. I was working part-time by then, my senior year, driving, all that. And Meg had never really showed interest, but I kind of knew she was interested. Should we tell the whole story?
You don't have to tell the whole story just because it's long, but I was interested, but I was not obvious. And I had a crush on you.
Until you gave yourself away.
Yeah, I did.
Totally gave yourself away. So, being a 17-year-old dude that played guitar, of course I had a band.
Right.
Why not? That was the era. That was the early 2000s. It's just what you do. My drummer, she was the same age as my little sister. She was only 14 or 15. And, everybody in the band, we were a Christian band. We were cool guys, but our drummer, she was a lot younger than us, by a couple years.
Yeah.
Well, her parents didn't want to drop her off and then come get her at 9:00 at night. And so they'd just say, hey, all you guys can drive, you guys bring her back home. And so she'd show up at my house. We'd have band practice out in my parents' shed that we insulated and tried to soundproof. Then we would load up all of her drums, load her in, my truck or my buddy's truck, and we'd drive her back home. One of these nights, the bass player was like, hey man, I got something I got to go do. I got to take off early. So I had to take her home. On the way home, she's like, hey, I'm starving. Can we stop at, Del Taco? It's like, sure. I think I literally only had $10 on me. So we stop at Del Taco, get some tacos off the dollar menu, and we're sitting there eating. And I see your mom's car pull into the drive-thru, and I see your little sister sticking her head out the window, glaring at me. Because there's there's glass all the way around. She's just glaring at me. It was like, hey, I know who that is. Why is she glaring at me? Well, the following Monday, Meg comes marching in totally blows her cover, marches right up to me, and she's like, "So, you got a girlfriend?" And it was like, I knew right then. I was like, she is into me, because I couldn't tell.
But you weren't interested in me at all.
Well, I didn't think you were into me.
Okay.
And so after that, I was like, all right, let's talk. And not too much longer after that, we started dating.
We did, yes.
And
well, because we never stopped talking.
we never stopped talking.
And we still haven't stopped talking.
Obviously. Like,
yeah.
we're sitting down to talk.
Still talking.
Basically, what it was for me was I finally found someone that I could be myself, I could talk to, and I could keep talking. There's no end of talking. Like, I found my person.
Ditto. We're like lobsters. Lobsters mate for life. Like I've pinched onto you and I won't let go. Or something like that.
All right.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. That's how it went.
Same for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same story. So, and by that point, once we, lobstered onto each other, we didn't let go, and we were pretty much inseparable from that point on.
We basically did everything together.
We did.
We went everywhere. We did everything. We were inseparable.
Yeah.
It actually kind of got me kicked out of the band.
It did.
And I was okay with it because I would rather have spent time with you than go play guitar. Yeah. Which kind of says a lot.
I know it does actually, because
the rusty strings on my old guitar speak volumes of who you are.
That's right.
Name that song.
Yeah, so we did. We spent a lot of time together. So we spent 2 years dating.
Yep.
And by dating, we mean like spending every waking moment with each other that we possibly could.
We were inseparable.
Just really talking.
Yeah.
We just talked all the time. Got in trouble because our phone bills, it was back in the day when you didn't have unlimited. You had like to pay per text. And I think both of us got in trouble for texting back and forth so much on our little Nokia phones.
Yeah, those Nokia phones were no joke.
They were no joke.
You could drop them in water.
Oh, I know.
Kick them across the floor.
You need no OtterBox for a Nokia.
No.
Those things were fantastic.
You need a Nokia box for your OtterBox.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, we just spent a lot of time talking for the 2 years that we dated. And then we got married young.
We got married very young.
Yeah. I was 19.
You were 19. I was 20. Mm-hmm. Actually, this will come out in May. So this is the month that we got married.
Yeah.
In 2006.
I know. It's like forever ago. I feel so old now.
A long time ago.
It's so old.
So, like, we started dating in 2004 and then got married in 2006. And, like, looking at the calendar and I see, like, a 20 in front of one of those numbers, it's like, oh.
It's a little weird.
It's been 20 years.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, we've been together over 20 years. Like, it's really weird. And both of us are under 40. Like, it's really weird. There's very few people we know that have been together as long as us and have been married as long as... It's just
and
it's
have
crazy.
stayed married.
And have stayed married.
Yeah. I am a big tea drinker, and I've been buying from Farmhouse Teas for years now. And for good reason. Cian and her family handcraft the most amazing loose leaf teas that are as beautiful as they are delicious. Whether you're winding down after chores or just want something special in your cup, there's a blend for every season. Head over to farmhouseteas.com and use the code HOLLER10 for 10% off. If tea is not your thing, no worries. They also have organic bulk herbs, elderberry syrup mixes, medicinal plant seeds, and more. So that's actually a whole nother story that we want to get into on a later podcast, is our marriage story. Because that's a lot deeper and a lot more personal than we'll get into in this episode. Let's kind of go from after marriage.
Oh gosh, honestly, that's where it jumped off.
Yeah.
That's where we started having fun.
So you were telling me earlier when we were kind of doing our show prep that you wanted to touch on the challenges of our life because we do not do things like everyone else. Because we started as, those weirdo homeschoolers, and we just haven't followed the social norms for the most part.
Haven't. We really have not.
What happened after we got married? I mean, most people can figure this out. But
what comes after marriage? Babies.
And a baby carriage. Yeah, babies.
Babies.
We had 2.
So our intro to parenting was we had twins.
Mm-hmm.
We had barely been married a year when they were born.
Yeah.
Actually, we hadn't been married a year, but
when they were born, right?
It was because Meg got sick. You got really sick.
I got really sick. So they were actually due after our anniversary. Mm-hmm. But I wound up getting preeclampsia, which is super high blood pressure, and toxemia, where your body kind of like
rejects
shuts. It does. So my kidneys were shutting down and all that kind of stuff. So it went from I got diagnosed at 25 weeks to at 27 weeks, just 2 weeks later, I was so sick to where we had an emergency C-section. Mm-hmm. And they were born into the NICU. So I just turned 20, you were 21, and we have 2 teeny tiny babies in the NICU.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very rough. So that should have been a signal to us how the rest of our marriage was going to go.
Set the pace.
They really did set the pace. That was pretty rough.
Basically, as soon as they were born, I don't know. Guys, like, I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the hospital till late that night. The boys were born. Meg was stable. I don't know what I was thinking, but I went back to our apartment. I went to bed, and I went to work the next day.
You did.
I didn't know what to do. I think I was traumatized. I think I was in shock.
Yeah.
Because I think back, like 18 years later.
Yeah.
Because the boys are 18 now.
They're 18 now.
And I think back, and it's like, why didn't I stay at the hospital? But it was all I could think was, I was underemployed.
Yeah.
How am I going to pay for this? Like, this is insurmountable.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. So I went to work the next day, told everybody what happened, and they were like, why are you here? I think I left early. I think I did leave early.
Yeah.
And I came to the hospital, but boys were fine.
Yeah.
They're just, they were really small. One was a pound 7 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
One was a pound 2 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
Just for size, that's like
literally the palm of your
they
hand.
literally fit in my hand. Meg started getting better, and then the insurmountable thing was taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we were there every day.
Multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. I think you would go in the morning.
I would.
I would go to work. Then when I got off work, me and you would go down there, and we would stay until late.
Like 2 in the morning. Late.
In that time, I picked up 2 more jobs,
mm-hmm.
part-time gigs, but my employment situation got a little bit better as far as money. But it meant I wasn't getting home till I would leave the house at 6 and get back long after 6.
Right.
I want to say I wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of most nights we did not get to the hospital until 11. So you would get home, I would have dinner ready for you. You would scarf it.
Take a shower
real
and then
quick.
we'd go down to the hospital.
Yeah, because you couldn't go dirty because it's the NICU, so we had to scrub in and do all this stuff.
I'm a metal worker. At the time, I was working as a welder fabricator. It was a really cool job.
Yeah.
Like, I built service bodies for trucks, and it was a really cool job. Didn't pay anything, but it was cool.
Yeah.
And then my other gig, my late gig was
also fabricator.
It was welding, but I was doing wrought iron gates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My in between was I started doing the janitor work at the first job I was at, and so I would stay late, do all the janitor work, lock up, go to my other job, doing wrought iron, get home, be filthy dirty, take a shower, eat food, all that. And then we'd go down to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I guess all this to say, the first 3 months of our boy's life was rough.
Yeah. So that was before we were even married a year. So like you said, that really did kind of set the pace and kick it off for what our life was going to be. Yep. So I think we can fast forward a little bit. We had 2 more boys. We had another boy.
Oh, hold on. We got to bring them home.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Almost
we
on
did.
their due date.
Yeah, that was really cool. We did get to bring them home, and so then we had crash course to parenting at home.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like having a baby in the hospital,
right?
That you go home and you don't get to bring the baby, versus now you have 2 at home that their first 3 months have been in the hospital.
Yes. So they were used to all the noises and the nurses and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually, we wound up having to keep the house pretty noisy to keep them calm, and they would sleep better with noise, and we'd turn the TV on and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, which was really funny because, Flip It and the other babies were like, no, keep the house quiet. Yep. Don't make any noise. Yep. So a couple years later, we had our middle son. And then Brett. A couple years after that, we had Corbin, our 4th son. And then that was it. That was... I
was done at that point. It was like, okay, we had 2 boys and then another boy and then another boy. I see how the cards are falling. Mm-hmm. We're not going to try again for a girl.
Because you wanted a girl really bad.
I wanted a girl. I wanted to have, both.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a boy and a girl, and we got 4 boys. And, everything in our society, honestly, you hear a whole bunch of stuff about how hard kids are and all of this stuff that's just absolute fabrication.
It is. But at the time, you kind of believed it.
At the time, I kind of believed it. So I guess, having 4 kids, 4 boys, I kind of just reached the point where it was like, okay, we're done. Some little backstory into that is, in the meantime, I had gotten hooked up with a machine shop. Mm-hmm. I started working as a manual machinist, that's a whole dying trade in itself. And with that, my hours went up that I worked.
Which was a blessing.
It was a blessing because I was finally making enough money at one job. I only had to work one job. There was overtime.
Right.
We loved it at the time.
Yeah. We were trying to pay off debt.
It really was a blessing. We had bought our first house right after, it was like 2008, 2009, somewhere
It was
around
the beginning of 2009.
there. Bought our first house, and like we were barely making it. We had two car payments. We had the house. We were living the American dream.
Right. I had a lot of debt.
So, we're just doing what everybody else was doing. It all kind of came at the same time. I started working 70, 80-hour work weeks, 12-hour days, 6-7 days a week. I went from being home a lot. I mean,
within reason. Normal hours.
Normal hours.
Yeah, I would say normal hours.
To
never home.
Never home. Like, I was never home. And so with that, I would say we're probably married 7 or 8 years, something like that. And that's when it really started getting rough. Really rough, actually. So because I was never home, I would get home. She would have dinner ready. I'd sit on the couch, try to drink a beer, not even get halfway through a beer and already be passed out on the couch. She'd wake me up. I would eat dinner, go take a shower, go to bed.
Yeah.
Doesn't leave a whole lot of time for a relationship.
Yeah. So even the days when you did have time off, quote unquote, have time off, you were on call.
Yeah.
So if anything, broke on a job site or anything, you would be called in, and that happened a lot, a lot. So,
one of my hobbies was smoking meat. I was a welder, so I welded I made a smoker, and I learned how to smoke meat. And I got pretty good at it. There's quite a few pieces of meat, a pork butt or a brisket or ribs or tri-tip or anything like that. And I would be almost done with it. And I'm talking like some of these things I would have gotten up at, 5 in the morning because I knew it was a day off. It'd be Sunday. I'd get up at 5, start smoking a piece of meat. It gets to like 2 o'clock. Like we're about an hour out. I can pull it out. I can put it in a ice chest to keep it warm, but I wouldn't be there yet, and my phone would ring.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta go to work. It got really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard, actually.
So you were missing birthdays. You were missing, I don't think we ever missed an anniversary officially, but they got shorter and shorter. We used to have a couple days, and they got shorter and shorter. And these things happen, right? But all the birthdays, most of the holidays, any special times.
The only holiday I didn't get called in on was Christmas.
Right.
And I think there would have been a mutiny if, phones rang on Christmas Day.
From all the employees. They would have thrown a fit.
All of us. Like, it wasn't just me working that. We were a crew we were the get her done crew.
Yeah.
And it was like, you better not call me on Christmas Day.
Right. Yeah. So it got a lot harder for us, relationship-wise. Yeah. And it got harder for you just stamina-wise because you can't work all those hours and survive.
So basically what happened to me was my coping mechanism was alcohol. And so, I always enjoyed craft beer and stuff like that. And I started using it as, a way to unwind after working a 12-hour day or, it was kind of stressful today. So, every excuse under the sun, and it got out of control. And next thing you know, I'm drinking way too much. And it spiraled out of control quickly. Now, I will say, I did all my drinking at home.
Yes.
And after hours, I used to think, I need to drink to fall asleep. I've heard it all. They say every alcoholic's a liar.
Yeah.
And you lie to number one.
Yep.
Well, the drinking and the working and being gone all the time, it just snowballed. And it snowballed hard. And so it was kind of a godsend, but at the same time, everything kind of came to a head. In 2015, the shop I had worked at for a long time decided that they had sold the year prior, and the company came in and was like, yeah, we're moving everything back to Texas. I had the opportunity to move, but at that point it was like, I'm done. I can't work for these people anymore. I've just about lost my entire family. Like, I have nothing left to give. Go ahead and lay me off. So I came home. I took the layoff. I got a severance package. A pretty nice severance package, actually.
Yes.
And I came home, and I did not look for work, and I was home for 7 months.
Yeah.
And I make knives as a hobby, and I just did that for 7 months. Went to craft shows, sold knives, and
Yeah, I was making soap at the time, and skincare products. And so I had already had an established business doing that. And so when you got laid off, it was like, well, let's make a go of it. Let's try to do this so that you don't have to go back to an 80-hour work week job and, kill
right
yourself doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what we tried out for the 7 months. So you were making knives.
So the 7 months that I was home, I had not dealt with my alcohol problem, and it actually got worse. I would say I turned 30.
Yeah.
My 30th birthday was one of the roughest days of my life. People will never know how low I actually was and how bad my drinking actually was, but it did get better. What happened in those 7 months that I was home? We just lived off the severance that I'd gotten.
I'd squirreled away a bunch of food.
Yeah, Meg has always been one to just squirrel away food.
Yeah.
So
it's a hobby.
It was just like, it was sweet. Like it really was sweet. And I realized how much anger and hurt I was holding on to, and how much the alcohol was just my crutch.
Yeah. And it was driving it.
It was kind of driving it. It was making it worse.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So I got a taste of something that I realized I had been missing. I got to see what home life was like. I got to see what my family was like. I got to see what I was missing.
Because the kids and I had built this entire life without you, really.
Yeah. It was weird because, they all had their... I didn't know that you guys Friday night?
Friday night? We'd have pizza and a movie, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So we had to I was trying to do things to make childhood still sweet for our kids, even though Dad wasn't home. And you and I were fighting a lot by then. And, with alcoholism, even if you were present, you weren't present.
Yep. Checked out.
Yeah. So every Friday night, you were working nights, and every Friday night I would move the furniture and we would spread a big blanket on the floor and we would go get Little Caesars pizza.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
We didn't know back then.
Yeah. Our food journey is a whole nother thing. But anyways, we'd go get Little Caesars pizza, and the kids and I'd put on a movie, some Pixar movie or something like that.
Yep.
They were little, and we would eat pizza on the floor in the living room. And there were some nights where I would grab sleeping bags and stuff, and they would we'd camp out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we had this whole life. We would go on, field trips because we homeschool our children too. We'd go on field trips to, pioneer museums and the airport and go watch the planes. And we did all these things without Dad.
In those sweet 7 months. I say sweet. It was not sweet at the time. It was rough.
It was very rough. Yes. Because like you said, you were not dealing with your alcoholism.
I had not dealt with the demons
right.
that I didn't realize I was carrying around. So kind of got to the end of that severance payment that I'd been living on. And I realized that, a craft show here and a craft show there and selling a few knives wasn't cutting it.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that one of the guys I used to work with had got in with a shop that was down the street from where we lived.
Yeah, it was right around the corner.
And he was able to, get me a job. So I went down to this shop, and it was awesome. I didn't have to be anybody. I could just be a machinist.
Right.
I walked in, they hired me as a machinist, and it was cool.
Yeah, no on call,
nothing. And and it was a swing shift, so I was working afternoon. I think I got off at 10 o'clock at night. So it was a super easy shift, and it was 8 hours. I was stoked, and it was decent pay.
It was great.
I worked there 3 months, and they put me in charge of night crew.
Yep.
And I was right back in it.
We were right back in it.
Right back to what I was doing before.
Yeah.
On call. I mean, it was a little bit easier because I for real, I was 2 miles away from the shop.
Yeah, it was great.
So I could come home on my break time. I could come home on lunch break.
Yes. So you would, and you were in charge of night crew. So I would have dinner for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew, dinner was at 5:30. So I would make sure dinner was done. So that was, even though it was hard because you were still, in charge again and a little more on the hook for things, we were starting to get a little taste of normal home life again while you were working, because you could be home for dinner.
Well, and because it was a swing shift, I would get up at I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, have a normal day.
Like I could have a cup of coffee,
Uh-huh.
at normal coffee hours.
Yeah.
We could have breakfast.
Right.
We would usually eat lunch together. And then I would, mosey on down to work.
Right.
And
then you'd come
be
home for dinner.
So it completely changed our dynamic.
It did.
But there was still a bunch of
undealt
with stuff between us.
Right.
Long story short, amidst all of the chaos of what we were going through, I just got up one morning. I'm sitting there drinking my coffee. I'm sitting at the kitchen table drinking my coffee. And we had a nasty fight the night before. And it was just like, I don't know what to do. Mm. And the only way I can describe it was like God said this to me. Mm-hmm. It was as clear of a thought as I've ever had. And it was like, you're going to sell everything. You're going to buy an RV. And you guys are going to
hit the road.
Road. And so a little bit, and I'm sitting there going, what the heck? Is this my thought?
So this is not normal for my husband, y'all. Yeah, just so you know. It's not normal for him. And especially not like a quick thing, because Ben sits on stuff for a long time.
I like to think about things. I like to plan things.
Right.
I like to
It takes him a long time to make decisions. So go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
So she comes walking in and, just like glares at me. Good morning. She's like, man.
It was a bad fight.
It was pretty bad. And I said, hey, how would you feel about selling everything we own, buying an RV, and traveling the country? Like we've always talked about, wouldn't it be nice when we retire?
Yeah.
And both of us knew if we kept going the way we were going, we wouldn't see retirement with each other.
No.
And she kind of grimacing, thinks about it for a second. She's like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
I was like, really? And she asked me, she said, well, what do we do about all of our stuff? I said, we'll sell it. And we kind of hemmed and hawed about it. And I was like, look, if there's a fire tonight and we're all standing out at the curb watching everything we own burn to the ground, but we're all safe, what will we do? We can get new stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was like in the movies, put the hands together.
Right? Slap.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, we started planning. Mm-hmm. We knew we wanted to homestead. We knew we wanted to get animals. We knew we wanted to grow our own food. By this point, we were starting to really go down.
Yeah, we had a little backyard garden, and
more than little. Most
for
of the
lot,
yeah. Most of the backyard was garden, and
we certainly weren't growing
as much as we could.
A very large amount of our diet, but we had a couple chickens and a couple fruit trees, and then we put in a decent sized garden for the lot that it was.
We were getting ready to rip out the rest of the grass on the entire property and put in garden.
Yeah.
And we had looked for land, and we're looking farther and farther and farther away, like 6 hours away from home.
Because this is California, and it's expensive, and water's a big issue, and all that kind of stuff.
And so once it got to the point where it's like, well, to find even an acre that we can afford, it's raw land and it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's $500,000. Like, this is dumb. So why don't we look elsewhere?
Yeah.
So we kind of tied our road trip across America into looking for a place to live.
Yeah.
We knew we wanted out of California because we are not really aligned with a place like that.
Right.
And spiritually, mentally.
Right.
We sold everything, and it was a year of getting the house ready. Mm-hmm. And just the only way I can describe it is spiritual warfare is what we went through.
Absolutely.
That
year.
Yeah. We had the weirdest stuff happen that year. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Just bizarro stuff.
I don't know. I could go on a whole episode on that stuff.
A lot of weird stuff.
So finally sold everything, finally hit the road. The house sold in 3 days. Yeah. And then we had about...
So can you pause for just a sec? So even though we were going through a huge amount of spiritual warfare, we also had really solid, what's the word I'm looking for? Assurances that we were on the right track. Like you said, the house sold in 3 days. And it was the first buyer. They wanted it as we fixed it up and we made it nice, but they didn't want anything extra done. Yep. They gave us over asking price. It's stuff like that we were like, okay. Finding our trailer, the RV, That was
It
a
had
whole
been
weird
traded
thing.
in that morning.
That
when we went
morning,
down.
and it was exactly what we like had been looking for. Like
It was a
very
bunkhouse. It fit
crazy
us,
stuff that
yeah.
we were like, okay, Lord, that's very obvious. Thank you.
So we hit the road, and we saw 45 states.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was really cool. It was an amazing road trip.
Yeah, it was.
I thought we were going to wind up in Idaho.
Right.
And then we made it to Idaho, and it was like, I can't live in desert anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I need green. And so we kept on driving. You know, North Idaho's pretty, but
North Idaho's beautiful, actually. But
it's also very expensive.
it is true.
So
yeah.
we kept driving.
There were a lot of places that we really liked that were expensive, so we kept driving.
We liked Michigan. Michigan's beautiful.
Yeah.
We liked Missouri. Missouri's beautiful. We liked the Ozarks. And then we made it out to North Carolina. We came through in October, and we've never seen fall colors before.
Yeah.
And North Carolina kind of grabbed us.
Yeah, it did.
I think we finished up our tour. We had Christmas with some friends out in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew then, it was like, no, we're going back to North Carolina.
Yeah.
So we came back to North Carolina, found an RV park. We overwintered and started looking for land.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only like 3 months that we were parked.
Yeah, about 4, actually, yeah.
We found this place that we call home. It was trashed. It was an absolute garbage heap.
Yeah.
Moved in, redid the house. And then, right after we got here, I don't know, the only way I can describe it is we had a change of heart. I had a change of heart.
Yeah. So during our road trip, like we're leaving, we've sold the house, we're doing the road trip, and you still haven't dealt with the alcohol and the things that were bothering you then. But by the time you got here, I would say our road trip was actually also a really huge spiritual journey as well.
Journey. That's the best
for
way
both
to
of
describe
us.
it.
But not only was it a marital journey.
Well, we had to learn to rely on each other again.
Yes.
You know,
and we had to learn how to be in each other's space 24/7.
Which was weird.
Yeah.
Because we went from being inseparable to we didn't know how to exist
in the same
space
1,500 square foot house.
For longer than an hour.
Yeah. And then having to go back to having to be inseparable because you can't get away from each other.
There's nowhere to go. If you're living in an RV, there's nowhere to go. And then you have the drive time.
Right.
So you're elbow to elbow for,
hours
6 to 8
and
hours
on end. And that really was the Lord, I believe, telling us to like deal with our junk.
Marital advice. Probably not for everybody, but maybe stick yourself in 200 square feet with your spouse.
And a car.
For
hours on
end. And sort your garbage out.
Yeah.
Like dig through your baggage and figure out what's left.
And there was so much that happened on the road that we had to rely on each other.
Yes.
So it was really, really good in the end. So we got here and...
So when we got here, we were still fighting, mind you.
Yes.
We were still having some pretty doozy fights about alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where it was like I'd really tapered off because when you're driving,
you don't want to feel like junk the next day.
Like I don't want to tie one on and then get in the car and be driving hungover. Like so, I had really tapered off, and we got here and had a few fights about it, and I was like, okay, I'm done, and I put it down. I quit drinking.
Yeah.
Right after we got here, I think we'd been here a month.
Yeah.
And I quit drinking, and it was really nice not having that to fight about. Because it allowed us to sort through the rest of our unsettled issues.
Yeah.
And once that was out of the way, a few months go by, and the subject of why did we quit having kids came up.
Yeah.
And really it was like, well, I don't know why. I was done.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why. At the same time, when we got here, our YouTube channel started making money.
Mm-hmm.
I had fully planned on just finding work out here, and our YouTube channel started making money, and it was like, well, I can afford to be home for a little bit.
So we started YouTubing when we started getting the house ready to sell.
Yes.
Because we were like, you know what, we want to document this whole thing. And we knew we were going on the road, so we wanted to share with, grandma and grandpa. And
absolutely. Document the road trip.
Yeah.
Like, that's a once-in-a-lifetime trip.
Yeah. So that's the Holler Homestead on YouTube for anybody who wants to find it. And you can go back and find those really terrible videos. See the whole road trip if you want. So we didn't make a dime from that while we were getting the house ready, while we were traveling. I think, I think we made like $200 total in the whole time.
Towards the end of the road trip, I think we had found this place. We had made $60 in a month.
Yes.
And it was like, oh my gosh.
Look at this. We're
we
making
made
money.
$60.
But
we can pay for
can't live on that.
half a tank of gas.
Yeah, right. And then we got this place.
Yep.
And
things started getting better.
Uh-huh.
And the discussion of why did we stop having kids came up. And it was like, well, I feel like I'm not done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, like, I finally worked up the nerve to, like, have this conversation with you. And we were at Homesteaders of America in our RV.
Yes.
We were camping there.
Yeah.
This is 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, I will never regret having children. I will always regret not having children.
Having more children, yeah.
And it was like, okay then. With the road trip, I bluffed her because I didn't think she would go for the road trip. She called my bluff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bluffed her again. Hey, how about more kids? And she said,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we
knows you haven't pulled out any more bluffs yet.
this lady's dangerous. She will absolutely call your bluff.
I will.
So we got pregnant with number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right after we landed here. And so maybe timing could have been planned a little bit better.
That was a little stressful.
We did not actually have a place to live yet.
No, we were living in our RV.
Yeah, we were living in our RV here.
Right.
And we were trying to race and get this mobile home livable that we redid. We did it. We moved into this mobile home. It was finished. We moved in the week before the baby showed up.
Yes. It was all great timing.
It was. And it was crazy. Like, looking back, it was like, I can't believe we made it. We made it because we had a lot of help from friends.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
We had a lot of people
so
show
much
up
help.
and
Mm-hmm.
help. There was a lot of help. It was crazy. And then, what was that, 3 years later?
Yeah, almost 4.
Almost 4. We had our most recent daughter.
Yeah. So we have 2 girls now.
2 girls now. So we have 4 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny. I remember being with my family when I was a kid, and people would walk up to my dad and go, hey, you got a baseball team. And now I get that when I go places.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Okay, so we've already spent a lot of time talking. So let's just kind of wrap it up real quick of what we're doing now. We don't have to go super in depth. And then why are we doing this podcast?
Why are we doing this podcast? Basically, I was going to say, I don't know. I do know why. We want to encourage people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is never too late to start over.
It's not.
It is never too late.
And it's always worth doing the hard work.
Yes.
It is worth the hard work of digging through things spiritually for your faith with God. Like, it's hard work to wrestle with God sometimes. It is worth the hard work to bring your family back together. Mm-hmm. And the big thing we're doing now is we're growing a lot of our own food. And it's worth the hard work to take back what a lot of the culture has stolen from us as far as health and wellness and things like that. So that's what we're doing now is we're homesteading. We're raising our babies. We're staying married.
There's a quote. I probably should have read it as the opening of this bit from The Compound Effect, that book, when it talks about habits are like a tree.
Yeah.
The longer you let a bad habit grow, the harder it is to stop it.
Right.
Quitting a habit that you have, let grow into a massive tree is near impossible.
You can't rip that out.
Whereas if it's a, small little,
sapling,
little tree, you can just rip it out by the roots. Mm-hmm. I should have read that as the opening.
That would have been good.
I'll pull that out in a later episode.
There you go. Yeah. That's
really
a great book, by the way. Yeah.
Compound Effect.
Darren Hardy. Yep. So that's the point of this podcast is to
encourage people.
Mm-hmm. Do hard things.
Do the hard work.
And
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Marriage is one of those things that it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Never let your guard down. Always be vigilant.
Right.
Work hard.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks so much for listening. If you are interested, we have a Patreon channel where we have the after show, which is going to be recorded right after this. We're going to go a little more in depth with numbers. We'll have personal questions answered, that kind of thing, a little more behind the scenes stuff. Also, check out our sponsors. We'll leave a link in the description for those. And we hope you'll join us for the next one.